Standardized tests are often stressful yet crucial rites of passage for students planning for college. Therefore, preparing yourself for these exams ahead of time is often important to your academic success. In this video, we will attempt to define and give you some resources regarding three of the most well-known American standardized tests: the PSAT, SAT, and ACT.
Hello, so I'll be talking a little bit about the PSAT, which stands for the Preliminary SAT. It is a comprehensive exam that serves as a practice for the SAT, and while your school may administer PSATs before your junior year, you will take the official PSAT during 11th grade. If you score high enough on the PSAT, you could qualify for a program called National Merit Scholarship, in which you would have to go through an application process to earn a scholarship. In total, the NMS gives out $180 million in student scholarship each year to students. The PSAT is a 2 hours and 45-minute exam and is composed of sections in reading, writing, and math with the highest possible score of 1520. Since it is a shorter exam, normally students will take it at their school or at an off-site location during school hours. Plan for around 3 hours, as with the addition of breaks and instruction, it is likely to be longer than the allotted time. There will be a composite score, 2 section scores, and a variety of subsection scores. The sections are evidence-based reading, writing and language, math without calculator, and math with calculator. Normally, results will be released 6 to 8 weeks after the exam is completed. The PSAT should be used to see which sections you need to strengthen and prepare for. As stated earlier, there are scholarships that you could be eligible for based on your PSAT score. There are a variety of available scholarships, but the most popular one is a National Merit Scholarship Corporation, only available to juniors. Each state has a preset number of semifinalists, which is determined by a selection index score. Every year, this score is subject to change depending on the score averages within the state. Less than 1% of students taking the PSAT will advance to the semifinalist round. Once reaching this round, students must submit an application with an essay, grade reports, and other documentation to advance to the finalist round and then eventually receive their scholarship if chosen. The dates for these results are subject to change, but normally, semifinalists are announced in early September of the following year, so your senior year, finalists in February, and winners in April or May.
SAT is a standardized test that many colleges and universities look at in the college admissions process. It measures a student's skills in 3 sections: reading test, writing and language test, and math test. The reading test assesses a student's critical reading abilities as they read 5 passages and answer 52 questions in 65 minutes. The writing and language test focuses on command of evidence, and the student must answer 44 questions in 35 minutes. For the math test, it is broken up into 2 sections: no calculator section with 20 questions in 25 minutes, and calculator permitted section with 38 questions in 55 minutes. There is also an optional essay section in which the student must read a passage and explain how the author builds an argument to persuade an audience. The SAT is scored on a 400 to 1600 scale, and the SAT essay is scored on a 6 to 24-point scale. The biggest difference between SAT and ACT is that there is no science section in the SAT. Additionally, SAT questions are evidence and context-based, while ACT questions may be longer but more straightforward. To determine which test is the best fit for you, it's best to take a practice test of each and see which one you are more comfortable in completing. Throughout the year, there are 7 dates in which you can take the SAT. Students usually take the test in their junior year in high school, and at the very latest, the beginning of their senior year.
The ACT test is a college placement exam run by the Princeton Review that people usually take their junior year of high school. It covers 4 subject areas: English, math, reading, and science. Writing is an optional section of the test and is 40 minutes for the 1 essay. So in total, including breaks, the ACT is a 3-hour, 30-minute test without the essay, and with the essay, it is just over 4 hours. Going to the subject matter of each section, the English section tests on grammar, sentence structure, and word sentence choices in certain passages. The math section tests on math problems centered around trigonometry, algebra, geometry, etc. The reading section consists of 4 reading passages with 10 questions on each one, analyzing the passage material. Lastly, the science section has 6 passages on experimentation that tests more on how well a student can analyze data and graphs. There is usually little to no actual scientific knowledge that is being tested. The ACT is scored from a scale of 1 through 36. Each section is scored separately, and at the end, all of the individual scores are averaged out to give one composite score. This composite score is what you will be sending into colleges. The ACT is administered multiple times throughout the year, so you'll always have the option to retake it up until you submit your college applications. Also, it is a good idea to see whether they provide the test through your school. If provided by your school, the ACT test could be free of charge, so always remember the date and prepare for the exam ahead of time. The ACT should not be confused with the PSAT or the SAT. The PSAT should be viewed as a more preparatory exam for the ACT and the SAT, and an avenue for national merit scholarships or awards, or even other scholarship opportunities. The SAT is also a completely separate test to the ACT. The ACT is the only test with a science section, although the SAT also has science-based questions. While both can be used as college entrance exams, the SAT focuses more on a student's ability to apply concepts and use critical deep thinking, whereas the ACT applies what students know from their past education. Thus, a student should know their strengths and what they test best at to determine whether they want the ACT or SAT or both, whatever they choose fit.
As with most things in life, nothing can help better prepare you for the real thing than experience. What's better than taking one 3-hour-long exam? Taking 2 of them. It sounds crazy, but in all seriousness, nothing prepares you for the real exam like practicing the test firsthand. This isn't to say that you automatically need to go out and take 2 SATs or 2 ACTs. In fact, there are plenty of ways to get experience with these tests before you even take your first one. For instance, simply searching practice ACT questions into Google returns a whole host of useful websites with great study tools. Another great way to begin studying is by using books such as the official ACT Prep Guide or the official SAT Study Guide. These books are great sources of practice problems, full-length exams, and study tips that you should familiarize yourself with before you take the exam. One key way these books help prepare you for the real exam is by teaching you the timing of each section. It's great practice to set aside 40 to 50 minutes one day and complete a full reading section or math section in a practice exam. This will help begin to train your brain so you understand how fast you should be working through these questions. There's lots of books out there, and a number of libraries, stores, and online sites have them for relatively cheap prices. Ask your school teachers and counselors, and they may be able to help you find one. The final resource we will talk about are videos. YouTube has some great review videos that talk about everything from which exam you should take, to how you can prepare, to how you should register. Similarly, some academic sites like Khan Academy also have videos that focus on test prep. All of these resources can help provide you with a little bit of structure when you're thinking about how to prepare for the exam. It is also important to remember that some schools have decided to go test optional for the current admission cycle. While this may not be a huge concern for you if you're a freshman or sophomore, it's important to keep in mind that some schools may continue with these test optional policies after we return to our normal lives. But what does that mean for you? The big idea is that you have the choice for some schools whether or not you want to submit your standardized test scores along with the rest of your application. But it's always worth preparing yourself to take the exam just in case. It's also very important to understand what the testing policy is of the schools that you're applying to.
Regardless of if you are a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, it is important to know to differentiate between these different test types. But if you are a student applying for college during the pandemic, be sure to check out each of the school's testing policies, as you may be exempt from having to take these tests. Otherwise, it's never too early to start planning. If you're a junior or senior planning to attend college soon, get started on preparing for these standardized tests soon.